God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white and God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet You may be seated. Good evening, Arab Toe. Thank you all for being here. I'm Cantor Amy Levy, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to introduce our concert. In just 1 month, the United States will be celebrating our 250th anniversary of its independence. What a better way to celebrate this milestone than to come together as a community in song and music. The Jewish community of our beloved country has been honored and valued contributors to the American story since the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Tonight, we come together as the Old York Road Community Chorus, Kolot B'Yachad, 65 voices strong, as cantors and chazanim, and as congregations to share our story of our American and Jewish musical history. We Jewish musicians of the Old York Road Corridor have gathered for over 25 years to share spectacular musical moments in commemoration as Hanukkah, Slichot, and Israel Independence Day. We have sung together in our congregational sanctuaries, on the stage of Marian Anderson Hall in the Kimmel Center, and at Jewish community events. We are so grateful to Maestro Rob Ross, Neil Myeroff, our Kolot B'Yachad Community Chorus, our cantors and producer Sue Lawson, and to the Jewish Federation, who have given endless moments and their generosity to make this concert a reality. And we also thank our King David Harp Society here at KI, which promotes the legacy of Jewish music. Thank you. Tonight, we're celebrating America's diversity by celebrating the diversity of American Jewish music, from Yiddish to Ladino, to classical to Reform to patriotic. Please enjoy this amazing program and be inspired as Jews, as Americans, and as members of our amazing Old York Road Jewish community. May the sounds and words we are about to present resonate with you today, on July 4th, and beyond. And now it's time for music.
The motto Wu heard this evening for the first time anywhere was sketched around the beginning of the pandemic lockdown and completed this year especially for this concert. It is designed to be a festive processional for services which require one. Tonight's program was designed to illustrate various waves of Jewish immigration to the United States of America over the centuries, and to show some of the influences that the composers which were part of those waves have had on our music, both sacred and secular. The first wave of Jews to immigrate to America in colonial times were Spanish and Portuguese immigrants. When they arrived in New Amsterdam, the governor, Peter Stuyvesant, wanted no part of them. But he was overruled, and the Jews settled in New York, worshiping in their homes at first, and then in their first synagogue, Sheharet Israel. The Sephardic chants which you are about to hear are from the Amsterdam-London Minhag. They are transcribed as heard in services at Congregation Mikveh Israel in Philadelphia. They are in regular meters and contain recurring musical phrases which make them easy to sing. Here are 3 such settings from the liturgy.
Yerushalayim, Amen. Yitkata veyitkata shemei Rabba. Shemei Rabba Mevara.
V'yishtabach,
Hayim vesava vishu ave nechemba, v'shezava orfua, ugulaos nikave kapara, v'revach v'hatzala, lanu kol amo Yisrael v'imru amen, ose shalom v'imromav, וברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. ברכו את אדוני
The 19th century saw the second wave of Jewish immigrants, that of German Jews. The best cantors declined to immigrate, fearing that they could not make a living. After a series of bad experiences with untrained cantors, the rabbis of the German synagogues took over, read the prayers instead of chanting them, and made the sermon the focal point of the service. Organs were introduced into synagogue worship around 1880, and most singing was done by a choir. Many tunes were taken from church hymns and fitted to poetry that was often written by Gentiles. The first collection of these efforts was the 1897 Union Hymnal, the most expedient way to adapt to circumstances. Our first selection from the hymnal is Decoration Day, originally written for the centennial of the United States Constitution. Although the melody is regularly sung in churches as God of Our Fathers, the synagogue text, written by American poet Henry Abbey, refers to the holiday which later became Memorial Day. The next tune may be familiar to you as Eli Tzion. In this setting to an Irish poem, the tune was preserved despite infrequent observance of Tish B'Av in Reform synagogues during that era. In the Union Hymnals appendix, we find some of the classic European settings of synagogue prayers by Jewish composers, including names that you might find familiar, Solomon Sulzer and Louis Lewandowski. We present Lewandowski's setting of Ein Keloheinu this evening. And in our final selection from this collection, we have a setting of a British poem to a secular composition from Felix Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn specifically wanted this tune to be used for only secular purposes, but he clearly did not get his way. Beginning in the late 19th century and continuing into the early 20th century, Eastern European Jews arrived in America in great numbers. Escaping persecution and seeking a better life, they first settled in major urban areas on the East Coast. They were seen as dirty, backward, and crude by their German predecessors. But a thriving cultural life developed among them, including music, literature, and theater. But in the short term, the new immigrants needed to make a living, and many found themselves sorely disappointed that the Golden Medina did not immediately live up to their expectations. The following song illustrates this dramatically.
Gegangen ist sie neu gesprungen, nicht direkt hat sie nur gesungen. Relativ lustig ist gewesen ihr Miene, und als gewesen ist meine Cousine. Relativ lustig ist gewesen ihr Miene, und als gewesen ist meine Cousine.
Soll scheinde Golden, schon zu Posen Hoben sich vertolken, den Bändel die Reute Barbaranzen, haben sich schon ausgegriffen Kanzen.
Hashem macht zur Grine, der sie mir mit der grünen Linie.
Yiddish radio's golden years were the 1930s and 1940s. Stations including WEVD, named for Eugene V. Debs in New York, and WDAS in Philadelphia, featured dramas, music, interviews, and commercials. Lots and lots and lots of commercials. In New York, Mitchell Levitsky of WEVD was determined to sell advertising time to every single local Jewish business he could think of, selling ads to restaurants, clothing stores, and household products.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we take you back to yesteryear, early 1950s, directly to the studio. You are going to hear some Yiddish commercials, as they could have been transcribed on Pitkin Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, home to some early sound studios. Now, let's travel back in time and listen in.
And
Shah.
now, everybody, turn up your radios.
Shah, be quiet. This is WEVD, New York. Wir senden ach dem Herr. We are now on the air. Hello. This is the station that speaks your language. Der besten jiddische Stanza in der ganzen Welt. WEVD, the best Yiddish station in the world, ist den ganz von Mishpucha, der Papa, der Tata, der Kinder mit Musik, Romanda, ein Stein commercials. WED for the whole family with music, romance, and even our wonderful commercial. Shah, no talking. We're on the air. Manischewitz Matza. Manischewitz, der Beste in der Welt, ungeschmackt. Manischewitz, the best taste in the world. Von der ganzen Mishpucha, for Pesach, von es erster Jahr. Manischewitz for Passover, for the whole family. Eat it all year round. Manischewitz for a boot toddy. Try Manischewitz today.
There is nothing that quite hits the spot. Your family will like it a lot, so when they're set to eat, just give them this treat. Manischewitz American Matzo. M-A-N-I-S-C-H-E-W-I-T-Z.
Functioning in the studio, 1 second for Ajax. Ajax, de voelende cleanser van haar Rennenheim. Use Ajax The foaming cleanser for a clean house is for Shabbos ader Nacht nutzen inten. Use before Shabbos or after. Use it anytime. Schwen tamul dem Schmutz indrehen. Ajax, remember, floats the dirt right down the drain.
Needs Ajax, der Scheiniger Cleanser. Schwenkt amol dem Schmutz in Drain.
Barbasol, you know the words. Barbasol, listen for Nathan Schreit. Barbasol, for a clean, close shave. Gut von Zech, lots of soap. Hot purim kiel, it keeps the face cool. Barbasol fadir, do you have a shave? What a shave, only Barbasol for you.
Barbisal, Barbisal, ich hab kein Waschchen. Schenken sollte sich allein. Barbisal, Bisal. Ah, Barbisal. Barbisal, Barbisal. Ich hab kein Waschchen, ich bin fein, schickt zurück in sich allein. Barbisal, Barbisal. Ah, Barbisal.
Manischewitz again, they're in the wine business. Manischewitz, a zien wine. Manischewitz, a sweet wine. For alle Gelechem, for all occasions. Manischewitz wine, das Beste in the Haus. Man o Manischewitz, the best in the house. Try Manischewitz now.
Meanwhile, back in the old country, conditions did not improve. Although Jewish communities from shtetl to city tried hard to maintain the traditions that had sustained them through earlier difficulties, and their efforts found expression in a variety of forms. The next selection comes from a published music collection entitled Stilled Voices, and is translated as Let the Redemption Come Soon. To quote the program notes, after the war, World War II, of course, those who survived the camps were physically depleted, emotionally drained, and haunted by the conviction that life was evil and worthless. Shmerka Kazarjinsky was one of those survivors who traveled around Europe visiting the displaced persons and sending a message of courage and hope. His poem, Zol Shoin Kumen de Geula, expresses the feelings of the survivor trying to make a new beginning after the Holocaust, determined never to give up on life, never to give up faith in humanity, and never to give up of the vision of a better world.
Trotz nicht ruhen, singen wir
is Adolf und Kulechai, aber seid nicht kein Ironim. Und von Sindigen Mashiach gecherkum Welt. Aha, Gadela in Himmel, Svetten Bnei Rachmonim. Ze Mashiach soll nicht kommen, a bissel zu spät. Soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule. Mashiach kommt schon bald, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule. Mashiach kommt schon bald.
Tanzen Bäume in der Wälder, Sterne neu von Himmel. Rabesvogel, der Mechuten, sich im Termit. Es wird schon Bäume, Mashiach, und seine tiefen Triebe.
To our agreement, to our prosperity, to good health and happiness, and most important, to life, l'chaim, 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 to life. Here's to the father I've tried to be, to my pride to be. Drink l'chaim, to life, l'chaim, 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 to life. Life has a way of confusing us, messing and bruising us. Drink l'chaim, to life. God would like us to be joyful, even when our hearts lie panting on the floor. How much more can we be joyful when there's really something to be joyful for? To life, l'chaim. To Psycho, my daughter, my wife. It gives you something to think about, something to drink about. Drink l'chaim, to life. Tevya, my wife.
May all your futures be pleasant ones, not like our present ones. Drink l'chaim,
To life, l'chaim, 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 to life. It takes a wedding to make us say, let's live another day. Drink l'chaim, to life.
We'll raise a glass and sip a drop of schnapps in honor of the great good luck that favored you.
We know that when good fortune fables to such men is stand to reason. We deserve it too. To us and our good fortune. Be happy, be healthy, on life. And if our good fortune never comes, you still whatever comes. Drink the to us and our good fortune. Be healthy, long life. And if our good fortune never comes, you do whatever comes. Drink the fire to life. To life.
I know you don't want to take a break, but we're going to let our singers have a little break, 10 minutes, back a few minutes after 8. Okay? See you back here. Enjoy your intermission. All right, we're going to get started in just a moment. I'm happy that you're schmoozing, though. Oh, good. You're going to introduce yourself, too. Okay. Good. We ask that you please take your seats.
Hi, everyone.
We are going to get started. I'd like to introduce to you Samantha Holzer, the Community Engagement Manager for the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia's Old York Road, Kahila.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Again, my name is Samantha Holzer, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Jewish Federation's Old York Road, Kahila. We're so proud to sponsor this amazing program tonight. Oh, can you hear me better now? Cool. Okay, I'll just start over. I'm Samantha Holzer. I work for Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Old York Road, Kahila, and we're so proud to sponsor this event tonight. Let's hear a big round of applause for all of our performers. I'm so grateful that this program brought so many institutions and community members together. Thank you to all of the clergy members and the Old York Road Community Choir for making this all happen. You're all such an integral part of securing a vibrant Jewish future, so thank you for that. If we haven't had a chance to meet yet, please come say hello after the program. I would love to get a chance to talk to you all and introduce myself. One more big round of applause for the choir, and enjoy the rest of the concert.
Now, this is a different one, yeah? So is this going to be okay now? In the second half of our program, we present composers and their, can you hear me? Is this working? Okay. Compositions which represent mainly the 20th century. Because the other one stopped working, so it was like a situation going on here. Is that going to be okay? Better? Excellent, thank you. Okay, is that better now? Yeah. Okay. That's good. I'm glad. Okay, yay. Okay. In the second half of our program, we present composers and their compositions, which represent mainly the 20th century, from the 1930s onward. Our immigrant composers came from many more areas of the world than the communities represented in the earlier years. Here are a few representatives of the rich Jewish musical heritage that we have inherited in the 21st century. Our opening selection for this half was composed by Mario Castelnuovo. I still can't get that right. Wait, I'm going to try it one more. The Tedesco I got, but the other part is like, no. Okay. But anyway, he was born in Florence to an Italian Sephardic Jewish family, trained and had his early career in Europe until persecution forced him to move his family to the U.S. in 1939, where he found many fellow Jewish composers working in Hollywood. In addition to scoring films, he taught there. His students included Henry Mancini, Andre Previn, and John Williams. In addition to his film and Judaically related music, he is probably best known as a composer for classical guitar, with nearly 100 works for guitar in his catalog. Of this song that we're going to hear, he noted that it was based on an old Sephardic melody which he heard in his childhood from his grandfather. Ernest Bloch's Sacred Service, composed during the early 1930s, represents a defining moment in the history of American Jewish music. It was commissioned by Temple Emmanuel in California and written by a composer of stature who was both Jewish and American. Bloch said of this work, though intensely Jewish in its roots, this message seems to be, above all, a gift of Israel to the whole of mankind. He hoped that the sacred service would move audiences of all faiths To this day, excerpts from the service, including the Matovu and Yehu Ratzon, which begins our excerpt today, have become synagogue standards, and the work as a whole has become a standard of mainstream choral concerts.
שערים ראשיכם ושאו פסחי עולם ויבוא מלך הכבוד Adonai Shevos Hu Melech HaKavod Morosha Kihilas Yaakov. Beitz Yaakov Lechu v'nelecha Be'or Adonai Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Much of our synagogue music in 20th century America came to us via Jewish composers who arrived prior to World War II. Herbert Fromm, organist, conductor, and composer, was born and trained in Germany, emigrating to the United States as an adult in 1937. A prolific composer and author, he wrote both liturgical and secular works, modern, yet respectful of tradition. Composer Isidor Fried was born in Belarus in 1900 and emigrated to Philadelphia with his family at age 3. He studied music at both the University of Pennsylvania and the Curtis Institute of Music, and later taught at Temple University. At various points in his career, Fried was a Philadelphia Orchestra radio commentator and was both organist and choir master here at KI.
Israel, ציווית פקודים במעמד סיני. שבת ומועדים לשמור בכל שנה, לערוך לפניי מעשת ברוך השבת מנוחה. אותו מכל ימי בששת כיליתה מלאכת עולמים, בו מצאו הגויים השקט וביכה שבת מנוחה.
Thank you.
from Poland, from Berlin, and then Tokyo, and that's even before he got to Chicago. Max Janowski arrived in the US in 1937, already an accomplished pianist, arranger, and composer. Like many of his fellow emigres, he turned to the synagogue as an employer and major inspiration for the remainder of his career. The work we present this evening is one of his most beloved compositions, Sim Shalom. Meyer Finkelstein was born in Israel shortly after independence and emigrated first to the UK as a young child. As a young adult, he served as cantor in one of London's most prestigious congregations before moving to the US. And he has held many cantorial positions in both the US and Canada. In addition to his compositions for synagogue, he has had a successful career as a Hollywood composer and arranger. The medley of Modim Aknachnu Lach with Baal Kulam shows his gift for memorable melodies which are characteristic of his compositions.
Barakenu avinu, kulanu kekad bior paneka, ki bior paneka, natatalamu Adonai Elohim. Ahavat chesed utzedaka v'rachim v'chaim לברך את עמך ישראל וכל יושבי תבל בכל עת ובכל שעה וישלחך Baruch atah Adonai. Osei
Modim is the plural for thank you or thanks. And it says in the Mishnah that we need to thank God for even the negative, the difficult things in our lives, the challenging things that we face. It's expounded upon in the Talmud twice more. All the more so, we need to thank God for all the blessings, the good things that we have in our lives, our ability to be here tonight and to enjoy this program. And thank you to everybody who worked so hard to put it together. Modim, modim, modim anachnu lach. Shatahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, le'olam eva'ed. Sur chayenu, magen ish'einu, atahu ledor vador, atahu ledor vador. נספר תהילתך, תהילתך. מודים, מודים אנחנו לך. ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל נישאיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלאותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת, שבכל עת. חיינו, מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור, אתה הוא לדור ודור. כי לא חלו רחמך והמרחם, כי לא תמו חסדיך, כי לא תמו חסדיך. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. והללו את שמך באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה, נאה להודות.
Gloria Goda had a happy pre-war childhood, excuse me, in the Jewish community of Sarajevo. After being displaced by World War II, she met and married a U.S. serviceman from Ohio. Together, they raised their family in the United States and made it their mission to perform songs that celebrate the life and traditions of the Bosnian Sephardim, a rich Jewish heritage that was kept alive by the Sephardic Jews forced out of Spain in 1492. Her most well-known composition is heard as Hanukkah Ocho Handalika. I'm thinking many of us must have sung that a million times already. Yeah. Hamisha Asar are the Ladino words for Du B'Shvat, the spring holiday that celebrates the time when sap begins flowing in the trees. Floria Yagoda remembers that we children will go house to house to gather the customary 15 kinds of fruit and join in the festivities.
La
Now we shift gears a little to a piece by contemporary American composer Benji Ellen Schiller, which incorporates texts which celebrate our concert's theme, Let Freedom Sing. The lyrics are taken from the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 10, among others, and are inscribed on the Liberty Belt itself. In this setting, they translate as, proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. Justice shall roll down like the water, and righteousness as a mighty stream.
Proclaim liberty throughout the land, Proclaim liberty to all its inhabitants. All its inhabitants. All its inhabitants. Justice shall roll down like the water. Justice shall roll down like the water. Justice shall roll down like the water. And righteousness like a mighty
Irving Berlin was born in 1888 and immigrated with his family from Belarus to New York in 1893. Well remembered for his prolific contributions to musical theater and Hollywood films, our final presentation today is from his score for the show, Miss Liberty. Poet Emma Lazarus was the daughter of Portuguese Sephardic Jews and was born in New York in 1849. She wrote her poem, The New Colossus, to help raise money for the construction of the pedestal for the Statue of Liberty in the 1880s. Finally, in 1903, a plaque with the poem's text was mounted on the inner wall of the pedestal where it remains today. It is fitting that we end our program with this poem as a much-needed reminder that we are indeed a nation of immigrants. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcomes. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. And you know the rest, people. Go.
As we leave tonight, may the songs of those who came before us continue to echo in our hearts. May we honor the courage of immigrants who's crossed the oceans carrying little more than hope, faith, and melody. And may this hope fulfill the promise of this nation by ensuring that freedom rings, freedom sings, and freedom lives for all people. Good night, good evening. Thank you so much for coming.